Welcome today to Woodworking with Wes. Today we are testing Beyond Paint to see if it lives up to its hype. Known for its no-prep all-in-one application, Beyond Paint promises a smooth finish without sanding or stripping or priming. Join me as I put it to the test on a real project, exploring its ease of use, durability, and final look. By the end, you will know if this product is worth the investment for your next makeover. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. We're going to start with this ugly, discarded kitchen cabinet and see if Beyond Paint can actually bring it back to life. We start by removing all of the hardware from our door. Next, with a stiff brush and a cleaning solution, I'm going to remove all of the dirt out of all of the crevices so that we're ready for the paint. I used my air nozzle to help dry the cleaning solution that I used, and then I'm going to go back over it with paint thinner, and I'm just going to wipe it down with paint thinner in order to get any remaining oils and grease off of the finish so that my paint will have a good surface to stick on. And we're just wiping that down. That'll dry very fast, and we're ready to begin our paint. In order to get a true test of not priming or sanding, I didn't do any repair work. This is chipped paint on here. This is the original paint color that is on the door. We didn't solve any of the problems that existed. If I was doing this for a repair on a complete kitchen, I might go back and just feather out some of the sanding on the paint chips. But we're not going to do that. I want to do a real true test according to Beyond Paint instructions. We're just going to use a chip brush. The color that we're using is dark blue. It's very thick, and we're just going to use our chip brush to paint the profiles of our door, and then we're going to do the flat parts with a roller. So we'll start, and remember it says it uses 2 coats in order to cover real good, and so we're just right now just trying to get our first coat on and all of the profiles painted in. We can still see some white paint showing through. I'm sure that is what's going to be covered by the second coat, but we want to make sure that we get down into all the cracks and crevices on our profile with our brush. And you don't want to do it too thick. You want to have it covered, but you don't want to gob it on either. According to the instructions, a nice, smooth, even first coat. Because of the thickness of the paint, it has kind of a rough texture when it rolls on, but according to the instructions, it will smooth out as it dries. And this is water-based, so cleanup is just soap and water. So we're just going to even out our roller marks so that it'll have a nice, smooth surface to dry. And there is our first coat. With our brush, we'll paint the inside of our face frame of our cabinet. Again, like I say, I've not done any repair work. All I'm doing is just painting the cleaned cabinet so that we can get a real true test on Beyond Paint's ability to cover. With the inside of our face frame painted, we'll use our roller to paint the face. We're now getting ready to paint the second coat. We're on the back side of our door. You can still see some of the white marks showing through on the original coat, so that's why they say that it needs 2 coats. We used a chip brush our first time for our profile. I got a little better brush this time so that I have a smoother coat of paint, not that the chip brush didn't do a good job getting down into the profiles. But I wanted to have a little bit smoother brush with this final coat. And so I'm using a nylon brush, not a very expensive one. I mean, I don't have a real expensive nylon brush, but I have a good one. So I'm just using my nylon brush to get down into the profiles, smooth it out. I don't want to have too much paint on here. I want to have it nice and smooth now that we're doing our second coat. But I want to get the profiles taken care of. Then we're going to come back with our roller and do all of the flat surfaces. Okay, here is our roller that we're using. This is just a little 6-inch roller that I purchased from my hardware store, so it's not a very expensive roller, but it does the job. And like I say, it goes on kind of rough, has kind of a texture to it. I won't call it rough, a texture. But when it dries, that smooths out pretty good. It does have a little bit of a texture on it, which if you're redoing a cabinet or a project that is distressed or had some heavy use or whatever, this texture that it leaves helps hide some of the issues that your project might have. And it just covers really, really good. And there we go. Okay, we're going to give that just a second to dry, a few minutes, so that we can turn it over and set it up on our drying rack, and then we'll paint the front side of the door and give that second coat on the front. Okay, we're getting ready to paint our final coat on the front of our door. It's nice and smooth. You can see the white. This is great to paint this on a white door because you can see the difference between the first coat and what we're going to end up on the second coat. Again, we're going to use our nylon brush. While I'm doing this, I want to talk a little bit about the surfaces that you can paint with Beyond Paint. And according to the information on the jar, this can be painted on wood, metal. You can even paint countertops with it with the right kind of surface. It just has to be a good, clean surface. Any repair that needs to be done is a good time to do your repair before you paint. Like I say, I did not do any repair because I wanted to have a real true test of what the paint would do, and so I didn't do any repair work so that we could see how well it would cover any of the issues that the original cabinet and door had. Look how the difference between the old paint and the new paint, how well it covers. I'm going to let me take my roller here. I'm going to roll 1/2 of the door, and we're going to show you what 1/2 looks like compared to the Okay, right down the middle here. There's a nice comparison between first coat and second coat. Smooth that out a little bit. Okay, let's tip that up so you can see. There, you can see how that really puts on a nice second coat. Let's go ahead and finish out again using our brush to paint the profile all the way around. We're still going to try to get that paint down in any crevices and cracks that might not have had all that it needed, but it's covering that white really good, giving it a really good second coat and covering really well. So if you have a cabinet or a project of any kind that has a colored coat on it already, 2 coats of Beyond Paint will not only give it a fresh coat of paint, it will give it a covering completely to hide that original color. And white was a great test because we're using a dark color, and to have a white color underneath that is completely covered with 2 coats, that's a great way to determine whether or not your coverage is what it needs to be. If it'll cover a white coat completely, then you've got a good coverage on your paint. Beyond Paint looks like it's doing a great job at exactly that, making sure that it's covered completely by the time you have your 2 coats on. Now this was an oak door. I was surprised at that when I saw the white paint on it. I didn't realize that it would be an oak door. It was an oak door. The paint that was on it had not filled the grain, and so you could still see that oak grain. That's how I could tell it was an oak door. But when I put the Beyond Paint on there, that also has a tendency to hide that oak, that coarse oak grain with this textured look or this textured final application that it has. Now it will be smooth. We're all done with the second coat on the door. It will smooth out a little bit as it dries. All right, there we are. Let's go ahead and paint the cabinet and come back when it's all dry and put it together and see how it looks. We've waited the recommended drying time. Our door is now dry to the touch. The texture that the paint provides obscures most of the oak grain, so it has a real nice smooth effect, even though there's a little texture to the paint. Let's put the hardware on. Well, final question. Did it rescue this cabinet? I think so. I'd like to know your comments, and we're going to see you then on Woodworking with Wes.